can't be the only one that feels like comedy is a genre of film that's not necessarily dying, but doesn't feel the same as it once did. Yes, you still get films like Borat's subsequent movie film, Licorice Pizza, and The French Dispatch, but it feels like the genre of comedy has been overflowing lately with mediocre or just forgettable comedies like He's All That, My Spy, and The Bubble. I can't pinpoint an exact reason as to why this is happening. All I know is that I miss when comedies like Good Boys were released. Yes, I know I reviewed this back when it came out, but I thought it would be interesting to go back and take a look again to see if my thoughts have changed. To my surprise, this is not only just as funny as when I first saw it, but it's still as relevant now as it was back then. A lot of comedies can fall into the trap of being dated, whether it be by the jokes being too offensive or the relevancy of the story not holding the same weight as it once did. Films like Ferris Bueller and Superbad are still some of the best teen comedies because their humor still holds up to this day and their stories still hold a lot of surprising depth and nuance. Good Boys is one of the few comedies that seems to understand this. While it may be easy for some to dismiss this film as just Superbad but in middle school, or how dare these young children say these kinds of things, when in reality, this is what it was like for our generation and current generations of middle schoolers. We acted like we were more mature than we were because we were starting to grow up, but we were, ironically, still scared of growing up and have everything change around us. We wanted to seem cool to be in with the popular kids, but we also didn't want to lose the friends that we've had since kindergarten. While this isn't a deep or dramatic film, director Gene Stupnitsky understands how to show these feelings and fears in believable yet comedic ways. The three stars of this, Jacob Tremblay, Keith L. Williams, and Brady Nunes, feels like real, genuine friends that have known each other for years. They all have amazing banter with one another, and when they start fighting and arguing with one another about why they're still friends, you actually feel for them. To me, comedy can really work when the characters are well defined and believable in the world they're in, and these kids are just absolutely fantastic. Obviously, one of the big things about comedies is their ability to make you laugh. If you can watch the same comedy 20 times over and still laugh as much as you did the first time, then that film is doing something right. Good Boys is one of those films for me. Every joke and gag is so cleverly thought out with great delivery from the kids. There's no real way I can explain why some comedies can work and others can't, but this is one of those films that can be very quick for audience members to find out if they're going to find it funny or not. In terms of story, this does a very similar thing to Superbad, where it has an insanely simple premise and the film has to be driven forward by the jokes and gags they throw out at you. While I've stated in the past about how important stories are to film, there's a time and place when your story needs to be more complex than it is. Like I said in my review for 13 the Musical, that film didn't work for me because the story was simple, but it wasn't offset by great jokes or musical numbers. Here, the story may be simple, but the jokes and gags distract you from the simplicity of the story. It was a big risk, but one that ultimately paid off. It always saddens me when films as good as this are forgotten by the masses. Sure, this did really well with critics and audiences, but I think the time it came out caused it to be forgotten. This was right before the big streaming boom at the end of 2019, and it came out during a fairly busy month for August. It was going up against films like Hobbs and Shaw, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Dora, Angry Birds 2. It's not a surprise that many didn't go see this. With the few good comedies that come out each year, we need to be talking about films like Good Boys the same way that we do with films like Superbad and Ferris Bueller. We need to champion smart writing and different ideas for comedies, because the less we talk about movies like this, the more likely we are to get whatever mediocre comedy major studios have planned for us.
Ooh, don't make it in the groove. Come on!
Oh god. If you haven't seen Good Boys yet, please do yourself a favor and check it out. Genuinely hilarious, genuinely charming, and having a surprising amount of heart. This is not a film that should have been forgotten, and I hope that eventually one day it is not anymore.